What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe.
And Amy.
Review. This is our weekly show where we review the magic stories. At least so far, that's all we're reviewing. But we're reviewing the weekly magic stories as they are put out on Magic's website. This week's story is called Breaking Points, written by Doug Beyer, who has had an amazing track record. So,
yes.
But my quick review of this is, you can go read it. It definitely has every major player from the block of Kaladesh was either present or at least mentioned. Every single one. I'm seriously racking my brain to try to think of one that wasn't at least named. I guess, nope. Yeah, I mean, you could, if you go down into the nitty gritty, like, Sram wasn't mentioned, you know, or technically, is it my tool? Who's Rashmi's friend?
My tool.
He wasn't mentioned technically, so there you go. The only one that I can think of. Everybody else was named, was discussed, was referenced, etc., including all the way down to like Shadowblade. So
Shadowblade.
I like Shadowblade. I think she's cool. But, so, yeah, go read it. It was relatively quick. Not especially, I guess we'll have to wait for later weeks, but it didn't really seem like a lot was accomplished by the end of it. Anyway, that's my quick review. I don't know if you agree. Yeah,
I mean, it's worth reading. Yeah. It's good.
And it doesn't take a lot of time.
I don't know, it feels very open-ended, which I guess is good, because then...
Hype you up for future
you want to
stories.
read the next one, so you can be like, oh, something hopefully will happen in this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, in no way poorly written. Doug Beyer does a fantastic job. Or I guess we can get into the main review itself. Not in any way poorly written. I think Doug does a fantastic job, as always, in this one. I feel like... You know, they brought up a lot of cards, in particular, that were within Aether Revolt as a set. They brought up Hope of Ghirapur, Heart of Kiran was discussed further, Release the Gremlins.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and so they brought up a lot of things that were centrally focused to Aether Revolt, and so that kind of makes sense.
Kind of a lot of cards that way.
Yeah, they brought up the Peace Walker Colossus, and that, I think, was the coolest moment, was the kind of the taking down of the Peace Walker Colossus, or really everything that the ground team does, which can, at that point, in the story, they break up, you guys know this if you read it, but they break up all of the major players into different groups. There's the ground team, there's the airship team, or the Heart of Kiran team, and there's the Liliana team, basically. Because by the Liliana team, I mean Liliana. The gonna go kick Tezzeret's butt team. And there's a lot of... They've been doing this a lot. You know, you follow up the Shadows over Innistrad block, which was a mystery-based block where a lot of questions were asked and not a lot of them were answered until right at the end. And, you know, then it was slowly revealed as time went on. To this block where I feel like a lot of the stories are very much in an attempt to make you feel like death is coming for someone, you know, one of the main characters or one of the named characters, you know, death, peril of some kind, whether it be to Chandra, Nissa, and Ovia in the Deadlock Trap, Chandra in her fight with Baral, Shadowblade in this one. Like, there's a lot of, you know, different moments where someone's life is inches from being gone, and then no one dies, which is okay, because I'm not like, kill off a character, like, that's not what I need, but I feel like there's so many moments where it's like, oh my god, this person almost dies, okay, they're fine. Oh my god, this person almost died, okay, they're fine. You know, Ovia Pashiri again during the fight with Baral as well, and it's so... I feel like that might get a little old, especially because I'm noticing it now. I guess if it never happens again, then I'm fine, but we still have the battle at the bridge coming up with Tezzeret, So I'm sure it's going to happen again where somebody either comes close or actually dies. I can almost guarantee it won't be any of the 5 main, planeswalkers. Plus, I can almost guarantee...
Unless there are only room for 5, and now that a Johnny is there, one must die.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No. Especially because I think it's been confirmed that it's Gideon and Jace on Amonkhet, and so they're not going to replace one of the females with a Johnny. It just doesn't make sense. And Liliana's arc has not even come close to ending yet, so they're not going to kill her off. Anyway, so I it's just something that I noticed. There's a lot of like, oh my god, this person's going to die. Okay, they didn't die. Like over and over and over again. And again, I'm not asking for somebody to be killed off. Don't get me wrong, but it's just getting a little repetitive. I give the story team personally, I give them a pass every time a cliche of some kind comes up because it may be the first time they're using it in this version of the online stories. And so, okay, it's a cliche, you touched on it, move on, and that's fine because it's the first time. You're dipping into the, oh my god, are they going to die? Well, okay, they didn't die a couple of times now, and that may be one time too many. So, it's definitely something I'm on alert for at this point.
Yeah, I get it.
Just because I've seen it so many times. About the story itself, there were, speaking of kind of repetitive moments, how many people did Gideon say in this story? Well, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
I think technically it was only 2, but they were the 2 people who Gideon was like, okay,
you have to, like, you're a leader, you have to delegate. You can't just be everywhere. You're not multiply yourself, man. You're,
Well, and it was for different motivations. I'll give him that. He wanted to go with Liliana to make sure that she didn't kill Tezzeret if it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, but
he wanted to make sure she did the right thing. And he offered to go with Chandra at the end to keep her safe because he believed that she was going off on a suicide mission.
On her.
Right. And because he was going off on a suicide mission, or she, was planning on going off on what looked like a suicide mission. So I just thought that was interesting that Gideon couldn't find a place for himself. And so he just kept offering to go with other people who brought up other ideas of what to do, yet Gideon is the one who is the leader.
He's the leader, so he found a perfect spot for everybody, and he waits at home for everybody to just be done and check in.
He's like, but can I come with you, please? Can I come with you now? Yeah.
I want to help.
Yeah, and at that one point where Pia is looking for someone to come with her, Chandra says the same thing, I'm going with you, and Pia's like, well, no, I thought Nissa, and Chandra's like, but I need to keep you safe, and Pia kind of laughs at her because...
You need to keep me safe?
Yeah.
And you're my kid.
So that's when Johnny's like, fine, I'll go, and it's like, it's just, I get that that's what planning is you're attempting to put your resources where they're most needed, where they can be best utilized, but it's just, it was a lot. There was a lot of that in this story.
Good story.
It was a little too, I think it was a little too behind the curtain where, like, in the past...
But I don't know. I think it was cool because we didn't really get to see that before from them. And I think it's neat to kind of highlight, like, here's what this person's going to be good at, and here's what this person's going to be good at. And so it's just, it makes sense for that person to do that, and this person to do this, and then this person says, well, hey, wait a minute, I don't like that plan because of X. And then somebody else is like, really? Seriously? Too bad, because you're bad at X, and I want you to do Y.
Well, and I think the other side of that argument, or that point, is that the last time that they were broken up into groups, that part of it wasn't, the planning part wasn't shown to us.
Right.
And I didn't really, like, I had a question as to where everyone was, but not why. Like, when Chandra and Nissa went together on the ground, but, they jumped over the edge, and I guess that happened really quickly because they were with Gideon, and Chandra's like, I'll go, and Nissa goes with her, and Gideon's like, keep her safe because I have to stay up here. But that also is kind of happening a lot, and in this block, which, again, it makes sense. I think there are things that are becoming a little repetitive, and so I'm noticing them. I can see how it makes sense for them to need to continue happening. It's just happening frequently. And so I think that may be why it feels like by the end of this story not a lot is accomplished.
Yeah.
The gremlins get released, the turret gets stopped, we get to see Dovin Bond be awesome, even though he's evil, and I think in the past I've said, well, Dovin Bond doesn't seem that bad. I was wrong.
No, he's totally cool.
Yeah, oh, he's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of if you consider the Gatewatch to be the good guys, Dovin is the one kind of working to help Tezzeret, who is clearly the bad guy. So
well, but it's not clear to him that Tezzeret's the bad guy.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Well, I guess he might not know that the planar bridge is being made by Tezzeret right now. There's no indication that he does know that.
Right.
Knowing what Dovin Bond's powers are, that seems a little off kilter.
I think the thing that I'm looking forward to finding out more of is what Dovin actually knows and doesn't know, which, if he's planeswalking away at the end of this story, or at the end of his part in this story, I guess that means we don't get to find that out.
Well, not necessarily. He could planeswalk somewhere and then planeswalk back to Tezzeret, for example, and just not be on the Heart of Kirin anymore.
Could be.
Could be. Or he could just straight up be gone and we won't see him for a while.
So, I'm that's what I want to know at the end of the story, is what all happens with Dovin Bond after this point.
Yeah, because he's definitely made an impression. I definitely, if you've been watching this series way from the beginning, you'll know that I was very focused on Arlen Cord in Shadows over Innistrad / Eldritch Moon, because she was a planeswalker who was presented to us, and then I feel like they didn't really give her enough of a story arc or a character. They didn't develop her character enough. They showed her once in the beginning of the first story, and then they gave her her own story in the set after she was featured prominently. But that was really it. You really didn't see her any other time after that.
Look at this cool new thing. And then you were like, okay, I'm looking. And then I'm looking.
Yeah, and then not as much. Now,
I'm looking.
with Dovin, though, they have done an incredible job of showing off a brand new planeswalker, showing what he's capable of, and he doesn't have to be working alongside the Gatewatch and being there with them 24/7 to be able to have his power set and his character properly fleshed out.
Yeah.
We've seen him interact with Tezzeret, and how interesting that is, because Tezzeret works off of intimidation, and Dovin does not seem to be intimidated by Tezzeret at all.
Does he feel intimidation? I don't think that's
who knows? I mean, he might. If there is truly no way out or no flaw to a plan that he sees, maybe we get to see him be scared, but it hasn't happened yet. He's just super calm, despite the art on the Hungry Flames card, which was shown to us in this story, where Dovin is visibly cowering.
Yeah.
He's got his head under his arms, and it looks like he's cowering from Chandra's flames. In the story, that is not what was happening.
It was cool because, I don't know.
Well,
we got to see a more human side of him.
Yeah, but it wasn't an accurate depiction. The story showed him, or stated that he calmly responded and said, you know, there's ether leaking out all over the place. You might want to land this ship and start evacuating. Bye. And then he, planeswalks away.
Yeah, but he can go like this away from a flame and then calmly make that statement.
But he doesn't have to, I don't think. At least they didn't say it. Maybe Chandra just didn't see him doing that because there was so much smoke and ether dust or whatever you want to call it around. Maybe. I don't know. It seemed very opposite of his character for him to be cowering in the art, and then in the story, seemingly right after that happened, to have him say, you better land this thing, bye, and just planeswalk away like his life wasn't in danger from Chandra, burning him alive.
I don't know, man.
Neither do I.
Leave what you guys think in the comments.
Definitely.
I don't know. I feel like there's holes in that area.
That's fair.
So, if you feel like you can fill in those holes a little bit for us, please leave that in the comments.
Definitely. As I do...
Maybe we're just not remembering every piece.
Fair. As I do in a lot of these stories, when these elements are present, I like to focus on if there are comedic elements along with the serious ones. And I think there were two main ones that kind of stood out to me. One was Liliana, when they were talking about, I guess Pia was the one who brought up the consulate turret, which existed, the anti-air gun that would shoot down the Hope of Girapur or would shoot down the Heart of Kirin. Excuse me. And she, they're talking about it, and Liliana's only question is, does it have living operators? Mm-hmm. And Gideon immediately turns on her. He's like, we're not killing people. She's like, look, if that's what we got to do. But I thought that was hilarious because it does make perfect sense for her that she would ask that question.
But also I liked that she was like sitting under the parasol, like...
Yeah, just super calm as, the whole battle's going on around her.
Being very aristocratically chill,
yes.
If that is a thing.
Yes, until, and I'll let you take this one, until Gideon mentioned her boy Jace.
Yeah.
And brought up the fact that Jace should use...
And she really got her panties in a bunch.
Yes, that Jace should use his mental powers on Tezzeret instead of Liliana using her necromantic powers on Tezzeret. And why is that, Amy? Why did she get upset?
Because they're exes.
Because they're exes. If you are new to the show, that's her thing. Is to say that Liliana and Jace act like...
It's not my thing.
It's the writer's thing. It's the writer's thing.
It's Liliana and Jace's thing.
It is very much...
I'm with you. You're not my ex.
It is,
that's not my thing. That's their thing.
It is very much written that way. It is very much written in such a way that... that Liliana and Jace always kind of have that, where when one is brought up, the other one gets a little different, and focuses on that a little bit more. So there was that moment. The other moment that was very quickly thrown in there and was not focused on heavily was Ajani. Ajani is talking to Chandra at one point when he says, I'll go with your mother to keep her safe. You remember what he calls her?
Yeah.
Little Candle. And while that's not necessarily fully comedic, it's a lot more adorable than it is comedic. It's funny. It's cute. It's funny. I liked that a lot. It was a nice little touch because, you get to see Ovia have such a powerful relationship to Chandra because they know, Ovia knows Pia. I gotta get all these names straight. Ovia knows Pia really well and knew Chandra when she was younger. Chandra knew Mrs. Bashiri, Ovia, when Chandra was younger as well. And so Ovia feels very connected to Chandra for that very reason. And Ajani, I guess, has such a close relationship to Ovia and sees her relationship to Chandra that he can also kind of feel that way and comment on that, which is, again, it's just cute. It's just a cute kind of observation. So, I don't know, guys. I really don't have anything else that really stood out to me in this week's story.
I feel like the story was a lot of working up to something and then nothing happening.
Right. And which means that hopefully we'll get there next week or the week after. Liliana is still going towards Tezzeret and towards seemingly the Battle of the Bridge, although, if I remember correctly, and I don't have it memorized, the flavor text on the Battle of the Bridge card has Tezzeret talking to multiple people. He says, this plan is bigger than you, all of you. So unless he's referencing Liliana or referencing the entire Gatewatch when solely talking to Liliana, it seems like we're going to get a lot more than just Liliana.
Yeah. And
maybe it is just Liliana, Gideon, and Chandra, if Gideon and Chandra go in the Hope of Girapur and get to break through. But then that means that Nissa and Jace aren't there, and Ajani's not there, and I don't really see that happening. I assume that this battle at the bridge, at the Aether, planar bridge, I should say, I think it's going to be everybody. And I don't quite know how the ground team is going to get up there, but Nissa showed off some impressive feats of strength today, bolstered by vines, just lifting that Peace Walker Colossus thing off the ground was really cool to see. Her like lifting that box when a Johnny expected that he would have to do it and like hunkered down to get ready to lift that thing up, and then she just picked it up and walked off. That was really cool.
Well, remember that in this plane, she can use the ether kind of the way that she used mana in Zendikar.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And at the beginning of her coming to Kaladesh, we learned that she was she was still really weak, and it was kind of weird for her to make that adjustment.
Because it was a lot more of an industrial environment,
right? But
not
at least it was better than
one.
Ravnica and blah blah blah.
Well, that she found that out once she realized how Aether worked here.
Right,
yes,
yeah.
Because she could follow the Aether lines and kind of read the Aether, but she knew going or thought to herself going in that it was a bad idea in general to go, because she assumed she was just going to a city again, similar to Ravnica, and then she would have felt kind of hamstrung where she would be able to do nothing power-wise, and then when she got there was able to realize, like you said, how the Aether worked. And
so I'm wondering if maybe the Aether is just gonna make her really, really powerful on Kaladesh before she ends up planeswalking somewhere else. Maybe she's just increasingly and steadily getting stronger. We haven't gotten to sort of see the in-between, but eventually we'll have to figure out why she got so much stronger. So
right. I will also point out something that I just remembered and that stuck out to me a little bit was the fact that we got to kind of see Saheeli kind of politely breaking up with Chandra in terms of asking her to join the Gatewatch. Chandra was like, hey, you're pretty strong. We could totally use your help after all this is over. And Saheeli's like, there's probably going to be still a lot of stuff to do here, which is kind of like Tamio, her way of saying, like, thanks but no thanks. So you had Tamio and Liliana in Eldritch Moon, both asked, but Liliana was the only one who said yes. Tamio said no. Now you have Saheeli and obviously a Johnny being asked, and a Johnny being the one who says yes, Saheeli seemingly at this point saying no. There might be a further question or whatever, but...
And then, we might go on to see both of those two end up in the Gatewatch, as Chandra points out in this story, like she did. Because initially she had said no.
On Morgatha, yes, she did point that out.
Because she had, responsibilities of her own that she needed to take care of, and then she just ended up helping anyway.
Well, because she went to Zendikar and saw all of her friends dying because Ulamog was out. Yeah. So, and Kozilek? No, at that point it was just Ulamog because she saved them from Obnixilis, and then Obnixilis released Ulamog, and and then all that fun stuff happened, which we've done in prior episodes, so you can go watch those if you would like to hear our take on that stuff. So, guys, I think that's going to be the end of this one.
There's not really a lot to review about this story. Like I said, a lot of it was setting up to, the climax of the story.
Of Battle at the Bridge, followed by...
and these are separate stories
Dark Innovations.
Are really just part of one large story, so it's probably a little bit tougher for there to be a climax in each.
Oh, yeah.
But, I guess the climax was Dovin
which was awesome. The Dovin Bond part was cool. Like I said, the ground forces were cool with Ajani and Nissa. I guess you needed that element of fear with Shadowblade almost getting killed under the treads and Nissa having to come up and lift the whole thing and like push it over.
Yeah.
It worked. It was fine. It was a little repetitive, and we talked about that already. But this is something that I brought up last week as well, which I'm sure there have been links, up at the top for you guys to go check out other stories that we did or whatever. So definitely go click on those. But this is something I brought up last week. This is the story that you release right before the release of your set. And the story last week was kind of the same, where you have super impactful stories so far from Aether Revolt. I mean, obviously Burn, we've talked about that, is amazing, but regardless, there were a couple of them that were really good, and these two were not the ones that I would use personally to hype up a set enough to say, you guys should be excited and should now go to the pre-release.
Right.
Or you guys should be excited and now go pick up a bundle or just some packs, or go play in an F&M, a draft, start your standard deck, open a booster box, whatever. It didn't seem hyped enough for me, following or knowing how good the stories can be.
Right.
And I feel like following the strength that was Burn and other stories like that in Kaladesh as well, Release, Bottled Up, things like that, these were not as strong, in my opinion, to hype the set for people. Yeah. It was just an interesting choice. I will say, though, on the opposite end of that, I do appreciate that they have given us so much of the story before the set has released.
Yes.
It's something that they've talked about in panels before.
Right.
They, being the Magic Story team, have discussed in panels before. We've seen them talk about that, and it can't be easy to do these things. And as we've said before on this show, we're not sponsored by them, so we're giving our opinions full out and what we think. And I think overall they've definitely stepped their game up 100% with Kaladesh block, with Kaladesh and Aether Revolt. They've definitely done a great job of answering a lot of concerns, and as more come up, I'm sure that they will address those as well. I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going, and I mean, personally, I'm looking forward to playing in Aether Revolt events and getting more Aether Revolt cards. Yeah. Because as a perfect segue that I didn't mean to do, but I'm going to do it anyway, pre-release was last weekend.
Yes.
Based on when this video is coming out. It was last weekend. We hope that you guys had really good pre-releases. We hope that if you got a chance, you get to watch our pre-release kit openings. We did 2 of them.
Please.
I'll link one up here. It was a lot of fun. A lot of you have been watching them. A lot more people than our subscribers to our channel have been watching them. If you are a new subscriber following the pre-release kit openings, and you did subscribe since then, and you've made it this far into this video, thank you. If you're a loyal subscriber and have been with us all along, thank you. And if you're a new,
thank you so much for being a subscriber now, or at least for watching this video, and maybe subscribe, because then you'll get to see those other openings, you'll get to see these other videos.
Yes. We will have booster box openings coming out. I think we're going to try to, in the past, we would release 2 booster box openings and a bundle opening right away, which is great. I want to do that with at least a booster box. Then what we're going to do is there's a lot of time between now and Amonkhet, and there's a lot of product for us to open. We have it all. It's all already been, pre-ordered and etc. But I want to kind of give it a slow burn. I want to give you guys a chance to. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of other channels who are inundating you with openings and stuff. So we are going to have a booster box opening coming out at some point this weekend. So stay tuned for that. It will presumably be in place of our Monday video, but it will be at some point Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. We'll see what we can do in terms of picking up the product and opening it, etc. So stay tuned for that booster box opening. Like I said, I'm sure that the pre-release kit openings were linked at the top. You can definitely go check that out. That was a lot of fun for us. So, and we hope you guys enjoyed it if you've already seen it, or if you do, go watch it yourselves. This has been another episode of JaAR.
Yeah.
I've been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
This is the Geek for All YouTube channel. We have just spent all of this time showing off our
#Vorthos Pride.
And as we always say, guys, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.